in the final tournament before the North American International Championships, an Italian stallion came to play. And also in the debut of Shadow Malamar, I don't know if anyone expected what would ensue to take place. No trainer in the European region had ever gone undefeated through an entire tournament, meaning no single game lost through match play. It had been done one time before. A player by the name of Harjev, who is no stranger to the competitive scene, one of the greatest players of all time over in the LATAM region. In what had already been an established meta, lots of teams being very much the same. It's Axon fresh off of a win in Portland. A lot of these teams had maybe 4, 5 out of 6 the same picks. There was a little bit of variety here by a trainer who goes by the name Phil Baggin. Although he doesn't have a whole lot of experience in the Play Pokemon circuit, he's no stranger to the Go Battle League. We're going to be going through his Bologna regional run and see how this man made history over in Italy. We start on day 2 against perhaps the best trainer in Europe right now, Nickname, running a unique team in this meta with Shadow Typhlosion, Superior, Swampert Corviknight, his own Shadow Malamar, and Azumarill. We see Philbeg here, the Italian, trying to upset the big name, Nickname, with Furret, Shadow Malamar, Swampert of his own, along with Tinkaton, Azumarill, and Talonflame with Flame Charge. The trainers will think it over and go for a lock-in in this best 2 out of 3 games. Nickname assumes the signature position, and here we go. It's going to be Shadow Malamar into Azumarill. And what, of course, seems to be a favorable lead for Nickname, we see the power of the Shadow Malamar take place in this game. And what does ensue in this first game is perhaps a matchup that when you have a new Pokemon introduced, these super experienced players aren't exactly familiar with how this spans out. So as we see, Nickname fully content just staying in here is going to bait the Ice Beam, and then we're going to see a Foul Play connect, goes for another Ice Beam bait here, gets both Protect Shields, and now what I think Nickname expected to happen here is that Philbeg would be forced to throw another Foul Play before the Ice Beam, but no, gets fully farmed down. You see the reaction, thought maybe he would reach that Ice Beam, and now all this energy and nothing to fast attack down with. You can't Psywave down, it's triple resisted. The Foul Play is going to knock out, and Nickname is going to put this all in the back of a 2-shield Swampert. He feels like this is his only win condition, is hoping Swampert can somehow sweep. Maybe if there's a Talonflame in the back, Swampert can pull this out, but I like the aggressive swap from Philbeg here. He's going to put the pressure on with some fast attacks from Furret. Furret bulky enough where you're going to need 2 charge attacks from Swampert to knock it out. If your Nickname does build up to the double Hydro Cannon, the back-to-back here, and we'll have to fire them both off to get rid of the Furret. And this, of course, will knock out. The only hope is maybe there's a Talonflame in the back, but even then, I don't know if with the Mud Shots, a Hydro Cannon would one-shot. And then, of course, Azumarill that's going to be too bulky here, where a Sludge is not going to be threatening. Even 2 Sludges, since it's a non-Shadow Swampert, would not knock out. And that is going to take game 1 for Philbeg. Game number 2, how will the players adjust? It's going to be the Shadow Malamar mirror match in the lead. And of course, whoever wins charge attack priority will have the advantage here, especially because 1 charge attack will not be enough and the fast attacks are doing very little. Philbeg content staying in. And if you look at the Shadow Malamar into Nickname's team, it is extremely safe. So it really makes a lot of sense for Philbeg to lead this Pokemon. It's extremely safe. No matter what it leads into, it's going to have play. Nickname going to fire off a Foul Play in return, and this is going to connect. We also saw Philbeg actually go for the Superpower first, I believe, knowing that even after debuffing yourself, the Psywaves are still doing the same amount, I believe. So I guess it makes sense doing a little bit more damage in that aspect. And then going to pivot into Fur. This lures out the Superior, and this time Philbeg made the adjustment where he has Tinkaton in the back instead. And now Tinkaton is going to be able to align itself with the Azumarill later on. So this looks really nice for Philbeg. Going to withstand the Frenzy Plant with enough health where you're not going to get Vine Whip down before Double Swift. And then the Swift is going to draw the Protect Shield here from Nickname. We see a slight misplay here coming from Nickname. Goes for the Charge Attack priority, which Furret wins. And this is going to draw the Protect Shield from Nickname. If he had threw one earlier, maybe could have just let this Superior go. But now Filbeg going to have a Protect Shield advantage, and this is just going to be too much for Azumarill to overcome. If Nickname wasn't required to use that Protect Shield and still had one to hide behind, maybe still had play in this scenario. But this is going to look really good for Tinkaton here, resisting all the charge attacks, of course, from Azumarill. Azumarill, being the bulky beast that it is, going to put up a fight here against the Tinkaton, but it is going to be tough for Nickname to really do anything here to make this uncomfortable for Filbeg. Also still has some energy banked on the Malamar, so going to swap it in. Smartly goes for foul play, of course, to not debuff yourself at this stage. That could be a potential lose condition. And then going to simply reach another charge attack against the Superior. If you only get to one move, Superpower does more. Why not go for it? And this is going to lift Filbeg over Nickname. A little bit of a fist pump against the two-time regional champion this season, three-time in his career. Filbeg's next opponent would be the man they call the final boss, Colin 6, one of the most decorated trainers in the Play Pokemon Championship Series' history. This guy has 3 regional titles, and he is the winner of this Bologna special event last season, special championship, I should say. And he is running, of course, a pretty meta team with that Blastoise that we saw Axon use to win the Portland Regional. Is this the exact same team Axon used in Portland? I think it is. And I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If it won the last regional just a weekend ago, it seems like a smart pick, a safe pick of a team to try and run this weekend. And here he is trying to get to the winners finals, going up against Filbeg, who we just saw get that 2-0. Filbeg trying to keep his winning streak alive, was undefeated through games on day 1 and got that 2-0 against Nickname. We'll skip forward a little bit, and here we go into game number 1, and it's going to be a positive lead for Filbeg. Tinkaton into Malamar, but we see this matchup play out a lot where trainers like to throw the superpower and then safe swap something, putting the Tinkaton user on the back foot, since Tinkaton is not a very attack-weighted Pokemon. So we actually see Filbeg save the energy, and then is able to align the Furret here against the Blastoise, getting off this Trailblaze first, putting on the pressure. And this is pretty nice for Filbeg. I think we will see Colin 6 get to double Hydro Cannon here, so we'll be able to force a Protect Shield advantage off of Filbeg, perhaps. But we may see Filbeg perfectly content just putting up the Protect Shield and coming out of here with energy and having a single attack boost on his Furret. Now this energy could go a long ways. This is not comfortable farm down range for Malamar. You're already at almost the double Swift. I mean, this first Swift is going to do a considerable amount of damage. Look at that, putting Malamar quite low. And going to catch the second Swift onto Azumarill, catches the foul play and banks the Swift in the process. This is also going to lure out a Jumpluff. And what's nice about catching that is you're still going to need 2 charge attacks anyway. If you're the Jumpluff, you're going to need double Acrobatics or maybe Acrobatics plus Aerial Ace plus the Fairy Wind damage. And because you switch lock yourself if you're Colin, you don't really have to worry about a catch here. If you're Filbeg, sometimes when you're Azumarill against a Jumpluff, you have to worry about that Ice Beam catch. But this is looking really nice. Going to get off another Ice Beam here. Filbeg deciding if he wants to use a Protect Shield. No, going to force the Acrobatics. Has all this energy banked with the Tinkaton. Going to go for the Play Rough here, drawing that Protect Shield. Colin thinking this will do the most damage remaining of what's left from Filbeg's side. Acrobatics coming through. I think Tinkaton could withstand this, but it will do a lot of damage. Play Rough is going to be queued up here and maybe puts this into Swift range. Going to switch, and we see the anticipation from Colin catching the Swift. No undercharge from Filbeg. Feels like it's more valuable to not take the Psywave damage, and gets to another Swift onto the Jumpluff. Colin pulled off the catch, but it wasn't enough. Filbeg just totally in control of the position. Takes game number 1, trying to take down another one of the biggest names in Europe. Here we go. Filbeg versus Colin, game number 2. Winner semis. Azumarill into Jumpluff, so a lost lead for Philbeg. Gonna immediately pivot into the Furret, and without an obvious response, Colin is going to be forced to stay in here and is going to build up to the acrobatics and go for an aerial ace bait. Gets the successful Protect Shield here. This is going to put Colin ahead a bit. Philbeg, a little bit of a grimace there. Doesn't love it. And we're going to see another Swift. Colin queuing up the acrobatics. There's a chance Colin could pull both Protect Shields, and he is exactly going to do that. Pulls both Protect Shields from this Furret, but Furret's still very healthy, and Colin doesn't have a comfortable answer for it, so maybe there's still hope here for Philbeg. Going for a Swift here. I didn't notice. Did he build up to the Trailblaze? Is this a bait, or did he just go straight Swift? Probably built up to it if we saw the shield from Colin, I would presume. And then going to swap in the Azumarill to take the energy. No Skull Bash on the side of Colin, so Azumarill can just absorb everything here. And maybe there is still some play. Also has that Furret very healthy, still lurking around. Azumarill going to build up. Another Sparkling Aria coming through. You got to presume Colin will look to maybe swap in the Blastoise now. Start building up energy. And approaching that Skull Bash, of course. Play Rough coming through. Colin content just taking this one, saving that Protect Shield. In comes the Tinkaton. And this will force Blastoise to start throwing Hydro Cannons and not allowing it to buff its defense, which could be problematic. Going for another Hydro Cannon, second one here, but I think the Blastoise is in Play Rough range just about, so Philbeg can overfarm slightly. Oh, interesting. Going for the Bulldoze bait here, maybe expecting a Protect Shield, but doesn't get it. Colin calls the bait. Could that be a lose condition for Philbeg here? Going for a Hydro Cannon, this is going to knock out, or was that all part of the plan? Comes in with Furret, forces Colin to give up Switch, gets off the Swift first. This is going to force the final Protect Shield from Colin. Furret not yet within range. Oh, and Colin now forced to expend the energy onto Azumarill. Maybe would have liked to get off that energy first against the Furret, and now is going to be forced to fire off energy against the Azumarill. Does Lapras get to another Sparkling against Furret? It's going to be close. It does get there, but I think Furret's going to barely hang on. And can Furret do the impossible and Sucker Punch down the remainder of Colin's team? This is awfully close. So low HP on these remaining Pokemon. Swaps in Blastoise, and Blastoise just didn't have the fast attack pressure, and Jumpluff didn't have the health. Philbeg pulls out of an impossible situation, takes the win over Colin, and he's heading to best of fives. Winners finals on the horizon for Philbeg. Now, after winning the winners finals, it would be PvP David against Philbeg here in the grand finals. This is going to be best of 5. If Philbeg wins this best of 5, he is your Bologna champion. PvP David would have to win 2 best of 5s to become the champion. David, already a regional champion in Stuttgart earlier this season, also has a runner-up finish. Clearly one of the best trainers, not just in Europe, but the world. David, very consistent this season, and he's going to try and become just the second trainer in Europe to win 2 regional championships in a single season. David, such a talented player, but if you notice his team, we saw this same exact team essentially from Colin. So Philbeg already has a lot of practice against this team, and maybe when you have an established meta like we've been having, this provides an advantage against a more unique team like Philbeg, built to sort of cause trouble for a team like this from PvP David. And will that give Philbeg the advantage here in the grand finals to try and get it done? Also keep in mind, Philbeg still yet to drop a single game in this entire tournament. It has only been done once in history, has never been done in Europe, going undefeated, not dropping a single game through an entire tournament. Here we go, grand finals. Shadow Malamar making its appearance in the lead against the regular Blastoise. Malamar going to outpace to the first charge attack here. Going to put on the pressure. David going to let the first charge attack go through. Hydro Cannon queued up and going to draw a first Protect Shield. Malamar should slightly outpace to the second charge attack here. Just one turn before the second Hydro Cannon. And David willing to put up the Protect Shield to get off this next Hydro Cannon. And will we see... Yeah, Philbeg's going to put up another Protect Shield. He wants to preserve health on Malamar. Understands its value against David's team. In comes Tinkaton. And look at this. Philbeg actually not going to swap out. And we see the Bulldoze come through. And he is going to reach double superpower here against the Tinkaton. David, considering the Protect Shield, first superpower connects, second superpower is going to put Tinkaton awfully low. And this Malamar, although using an extra shield, basically just took out 2 entire Pokemon. And now doesn't get off a Play Rough. So Malamar essentially took out 2 Pokemon using an extra shield. And although the Diggersby is going to be problematic for the Tinkaton and back, Furret is just so good against this Diggersby. I think it's going to do enough chip damage where this is too much for Diggersby to handle. At this point, just going to go for Swift. And David is going to be forced to shield the neutral Swift after taking the super effective Trailblaze. Goes for the Scorching Sands here. This will knock out the Furret, but the Furret put in enough work to put the Diggersby in Play Rough range for the Tinkaton. And maybe there was a few things David could have done differently in that game, but just well maneuvered by Philbeg to take game number 1 in pretty confident fashion and just looks so locked in. Game number 2. Shadow Malamar into regular Malamar. Psywave's still doing 1 damage to both Malamar. Foul Play coming through. Going to draw the Protect Shield, and I don't believe we know who wins Charge Attack priority. May remain a mystery. Foul Play is going to connect. And we're going to see a catch onto the Tinkaton. But will the Tinkaton get punished by something this time? There is a Swampert in the back. But notice Philbeg actually going to bank an attack first before swapping in the Swampert. Play Rough will still do a considerable amount of damage. But Philbeg willing to take it. And is going to build up energy and going to actually shield the Bulldoze. Of course, would have preferred to shield the Play Rough, but didn't want to get baited the first time. I'm sure now going to double up on the Hydro Cannon, so you have an attack for whatever comes in. And we're going to see, oh, the Peekaboo play, catching the Hydro Cannon onto the Blastoise. Very nicely done by David, but now the Furret comes in to punish the Blastoise. And even though you caught a Hydro Cannon, it's still enough chip damage where this is now within Trailblaze range. And we're actually going to see some nice patience on display. Throwing on the Charge Attack priority, Trailblaze definitely enough to knock out at this range. And David lets it go. And this is an uncomfortable amount of health on Furret, where the Swift is going to do a lot here. Draws the final Protect Shield. And this seems like a lot for Malamar to deal with because there's still some decent health on the remaining Pokemon from Philbeg. He is going to lose the Charge Attack priority here. But remember, he has enough health on his Malamar where he cannot get Psywave down. You have to throw energy here if you're David, and he no longer has a Protect Shield. And this is simply going to knock out. The Superpower does more damage in the Foul Play. And Philbeg, every time it looks like maybe he's in a precarious situation, he's like, calm down. I've got it under control. And he is 1 game away from not just becoming your Bologna regional champion, but from sweeping this entire tournament without dropping a single game. And you saw that little expression right there. I wonder if right there it was starting to sink in a little bit. Like, I'm 1 game away from doing this thing. Potentially the championship clinching game. Tinkaton into Tinkaton. Bulldoze, super effective, of course, the way to go, but not a very hard-hitting attack. So you're going to need at least 3 of them, and that could rely on whether there is a debuff or not. Bulldoze connects. No debuff. Bulldoze in response towards Philbeg. This one will connect and will get the debuff. Will we see a catch? Yeah, we will. And I remember watching this play live and thinking, I wonder if this actually does Philbeg a favor because it gives him the alignment he wants. And now the Trailblaze is going to just simply knock out the Blastoise, and this Furret is so dang healthy to the point where a single Play Rough isn't even going to knock out, and Furret is going to be a problem here for Tinkaton. And Tinkaton going to take the first Swift, play rough coming through. Going to be problematic for it, but of course, this might end up being a 2-on-1 fast break, as I like to say, in the back. Bulldoze going to nearly knock out. We see the hard pivot, the prediction, and David starting to realize, you know, this is just not my series right here. One of the best young trainers in the world, but right now, this is Philbeg's day. And Sparkling Aria going to connect. Shadow Malamar chunking away at the Psy Waves, and I'm personally a fan, you know, of it's not over till it's over, and Philbeg just staying locked in this really strong-looking position, staying focused, staying composed, and trying to make sure he closes this out. Malamar looking strong, swaps in his own Tinkaton up a shield. David going to let his Tinkaton go down. We see a little bit of a GG's exchange, and David with a little bit of a humorous ice beam. He's going to fire off at the Tinkaton. And wow, what a performance from Philbeg. Really great sportsmanship. Only his third career Play Pokemon tournament. Cool little invite graphic as he clinches his World Championships invite. And congratulations to Philbeg, your Bologna Special Championships Pokemon Go champion. And you love to see it, man. Another champion in our young history in the Pokemon Go Championship Series. Very cool stuff. I don't usually get to watch these live. I stay up as long as I can because I'm like excited to watch these broadcasts over in the US. But they usually start around 3 a.m. my time. So I like stay up really late and then I fall asleep. And then when I wake up, sometimes I wake up in time for like the grand finals. So that's usually what I get to see. And then I watch back a little bit if I can. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Congrats to Philbeg on making history, being only the second trainer to ever go undefeated through a regional or special championship event. And that is so difficult to do. So now we've had a trainer do it in LATAM, a trainer do it in Europe. Now the only thing left is for, well, of course, sorry, of course, like APAC, Australia, but now who will be the first trainer to maybe potentially do it in the North American region to go through an entire tournament undefeated without dropping a single game? That would be a pretty cool thing if that happens in a future event. So all that said, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new around here, comment down below. All comments are appreciated. I got a few comments on my last couple of videos because I only posted like one video or two videos in like a 2-week span. Been working on a little bit of like freelance stuff and real life stuff. And with the new season starting back up, I need to get more into content and everything. So I do apologize for not communicating as much with the lack of content lately, but I hope you guys can forgive me and support me on the way as we start to look to do more content and stuff on this journey together. So all that said, thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.